When the original Nobody premiered in 2021, it took audiences by surprise. A sharp, darkly comic action film starring Bob Odenkirk as Hutch Mansell, a seemingly ordinary man with a dangerous past. The film became a cult hit, praised for its blend of brutal action and deadpan humor. Fast forward to 2025, and Nobody 2 arrives, carrying the weight of expectation and curiosity. Does the sequel recapture the lightning in a bottle energy of the first film? Or does it buckle under the pressure of returning to familiar territory? Directed by Timo Tjahjanto, Nobody 2 wastes little time reintroducing us to Hutch, once again played with weary charisma by Bob Odenkirk. This time, the story finds Hutch attempting a fresh start. He's determined to reconnect with his family, trying to mend the rifts left by his violent escapades. The setting shifts to Plummerville, a small, unassuming town where the Mansell family hopes to enjoy a peaceful vacation. Of course, in the world of Nobody, peace is always just one wrong move away from total chaos. The film's premise hinges on this classic fish-out-of-water setup. Hutch's plans for a quiet holiday unravel almost immediately when he crosses paths with a trio of local antagonists: a corrupt theme park operator with a sinister agenda, a shady sheriff who bends the law to his own will, and a bloodthirsty crime boss whose reputation precedes him. The stage is set for another round of explosive violence and darkly comic misadventure. From its opening act, Nobody 2 signals its intent to double down on the absurdity and stylized mayhem that defined its predecessor. Tjahjanto, known for his kinetic action sensibilities, crafts a series of set pieces that escalate in both scale and brutality. The fight choreography is inventive and relentless, punctuated by moments of grim humor that serve as a knowing wink to the audience. Bob Odenkirk slips back into Hutch's battered shoes with ease, delivering a performance that balances vulnerability with bursts of lethal competence. Yet, as the film barrels forward, it becomes clear that the novelty of the first outing is harder to replicate. Where Nobody felt fresh and surprising, Nobody 2 sometimes seems content to recycle familiar beats. The story, a thin thread tying together increasingly bombastic action scenes, serves more as a vehicle for violence than as a compelling narrative in its own right. Critics have been quick to note this shortcoming. Screen Daily, for instance, points out that the sequel lacks the original's thrill, criticizing the meager story and the predictability of its over-the-top set pieces. Still, there are elements that keep the film engaging. The supporting cast, including new and returning faces, injects energy into the proceedings. The interplay between Hutch and his family provides moments of levity and heart, even if the emotional stakes never quite reach the highs of the first film. The setting of Plummerville, with its quirky small-town Americana, offers a colorful backdrop for the chaos that unfolds. The film's willingness to embrace its own absurdity, as described by the Financial Times, becomes its saving grace. The dark humor is sharper, the violence even more cartoonish, and the pacing brisk. At just 89 minutes, the film never overstays its welcome. Critical reception has been decidedly mixed. The Financial Times grants Nobody 2 a solid 3-star rating, acknowledging its embrace of the ridiculous and its commitment to blending dark humor with brutal action. On the other hand, the film has its detractors. For some, the lack of a compelling story and the predictability of its action undermine the experience. making it feel less like an evolution and more like a retread. As of yet, Rotten Tomatoes has not published an aggregate score, leaving the broader consensus still up in the air. Audiences, too, seem divided. On one hand, fans of the original will likely find enough to enjoy Odenkirk's performance, the inventive fight scenes, and the film's tongue-in-cheek tone all deliver on the promises of the first installment. On the other, those hoping for a deeper exploration of Hutch's character or a more innovative narrative may leave disappointed. The sequel leans heavily into the formula established by the first film, rarely venturing outside its comfort zone. Box office projections reflect this ambivalence. Released alongside Americana, Nobody 2 was expected to gross between $10 and $20 million in its opening weekend, playing in 8,000 theaters. Early numbers show a solid, if unspectacular, performance. 1.3 million earned in Thursday previews alone. These figures suggest that while the film retains a devoted audience, it may struggle to achieve breakout success beyond its core fan base. One area where Nobody 2 undeniably excels is in its technical execution. The action sequences, choreographed with precision and flair, are among the film's highlights. Chajanto's direction brings a visceral, almost balletic quality to the violence, and the sound design amplifies every punch, gunshot, and bone-crunching blow. The R rating is well earned. This is a film unafraid to revel in its own extremity, with strong bloody violence and language throughout. The film's humor remains as dark and self-aware as ever. Hutch's deadpan delivery, juxtaposed with the absurdity of the situations he finds himself in, creates a comedic tension that carries many scenes. Whether he's dispatching henchmen at a rundown theme park or exchanging barbs with the town's corrupt sheriff, Odenkirk's timing and delivery keep the film grounded amidst the chaos. Ultimately, Nobody 2 is a sequel that knows what its audience wants and delivers accordingly. It's a film that embraces its own ridiculousness, inviting viewers to revel in the spectacle without taking anything too seriously. For those seeking a thoughtful or innovative action movie, it may fall short. But for fans of the original, and for those who appreciate their action served with a side of pitch-black humor, Nobody 2 offers a wild, if somewhat familiar, ride. In summary, Nobody 2 is a mixed bag. Entertaining, fast-paced, and full of the same bruising energy that made the first film a surprise hit, but ultimately let down by a thin story and a reluctance to break new ground. It's a sequel that lives and dies by the strength of its action and its star. Bob Odenkirk, once again, proves himself a compelling, unlikely action hero. Whether that's enough will depend on how much you enjoyed the original and how willing you are to go along for another round of mayhem.